Hi, this is our first May City Council meeting for Lacine. I want to mention that we had a big storm come in on Monday, and quite a few houses and some businesses were damaged. We have a lot of repairs ongoing. The one of those businesses that went out of business for a day was already back in business today and doing very well. We had a lot of support there for it. That was the Family Cafe. And Simple Simons is still out because they lost their roof. I want to mention also that we have roofers in town going around talking to, knocking on doors. I would like everybody to be cautious about those roofers. We asked for them to sign up with us, and a couple have. You want to work with your insurance company and make sure that you're getting an ethical business there before you make any agreements. And you can call City Hall to make sure that they are a registered company. Yes. Anyway, on this same YouTube link, you can see that I put a May video out for the mayor report. So I'm not going to go into any more detail on that particular thing. And we are going to move over to I'm going to move to the phones so that we can have our city council meeting.
order from the governor regarding the opening up of the state and the cities. Really, what's important.
Can you hear Burton well? Tommy?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That order just came out the other day. We're in phase 1 of that order. There's I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a little graph or graphic circulating showing how it's going to be opened. I forwarded that to the city, and I think to the police chief, right?
Yes, and it is posted on our website and
Okay,
Facebook.
sure. So we've kind of got a plan in place. For our purposes, I think the most important thing to know right now is that they apparently changed the definition of mass gathering. It was kind of 10 people or less. Now you can have as many people as long as everyone can stay 6 feet away from each other, then that's legal. So that there's going to be changes to how people can gather, where they can gather, and what businesses can open, etc. But that's kind of falling in place. The county can put on additional restrictions to what the governor has ordered. To my knowledge, I don't think the county has done that at this time. I think we're just kind of following along with what
Well, the county did.
They did put in more. Okay, so
So it's in your blue pages.
the county has listed. I guess in my review, I didn't see anything that was contrary to what or more restrictive than the state, but it could be. In any event, the county can put in some additional restrictions above and beyond what the governor did, and I'll look through it again. But in my review, I didn't see anything in here that was more restrictive than what the governor did. Also, last time we were speaking about the sewer project, who had neglected to connect a house to the sewer, and that homeowner had asked that be done to the tune of about $1,800, $1,825. There was a question of who was liable for that, and if there's anything in the contract that would give us an out to the contractors being responsible for that, since they didn't do it. I've had a chance to go through that contract now, and I think my answer is that there appears to be in this contract a 1-year window for when something can be done. There is some question in my mind about that, because the 1-year window, that the language of the contract just says that up to 1 year after the project is finished, then the procedure to make a claim or say that work wasn't done satisfactorily is this. But it doesn't go on to say after a year all claims are barred or any complaints are waived or anything like that. I mean, it seems to be implied, but it doesn't come out and say it. So there is some reason to think that they may still be on the hook for that. But I think the stronger argument is the contract is also pretty clear that the city is to have an engineer represent them and inspect all the work and to give the okay to the work. And to the extent that that's not done, I think that's the engineer's issue. And if this wasn't done up to the contract specifications and the engineer didn't catch that and alert the city, then I think the engineer has some culpability here. So I think at this point, maybe the best thing to do is maybe send a demand letter either to that engineer or maybe even to Orr Wyatt saying that this wasn't done correctly, and we put the bill for this, and either reimburse us or maybe meet us halfway and pitch in $900 or something like that. I haven't had a chance to the contract with the contractors with the engineers is another 64 pages that I need to get through. So I want to make sure I've read through that contract now that I've got a grasp on this one. But it looks like if we're going to have any recourse, it's going to be on that engineer who is tasked with inspecting the work, being the city's eyes and ears out in the field, since we're not there. And he didn't catch that, and now the city's incurred a bill of $1,800 because he didn't catch it. So it looks like that's where our complaint would be, rather than with Orr Wyatt.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Question for Burton. Tommy Gap.
Yes, Tommy.
How many hours are we looking at to go through both of these contracts?
Of my time, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I spent probably about 2 hours today, and that other one would be another hour and a half, maybe to get hour and a half to get the 64 pages.
Okay, so I mean, we're gonna try it 4 hours there. Are we better off just paying this and just going down the road, or do we think we need to continue trying to chase this?
That's a good question. I had thought about that. So we're talking about a bill about $1,800, and what I talked to Jody about is, that's not something that we really would want to go to trial over. That would just be the cost would far outweigh what we'd hope to get. And so if they didn't reply to a demand letter or said no, the city could either do something or just let it go like you're suggesting. And my advice is, again, for $1,800, it's not really worth it. So if you know now that we're just not going to take legal action and pursue a bill of $1,800, then maybe we just don't do anything. But if we do send a demand letter and they do send a check for even $1,000, then that puts us in the black. But we're not talking a great deal of money, and if that with the uncertainty, who knows how they'd respond. Maybe that's worth the time to put in, maybe it's not, but that's up to you.
And
Madam Mayor,
yes, yes.
it's Danny Curtis.
Hi, Danny.
My suggestion is we need to pay the contractor, and we need to maybe continue on sending a demand letter, at least get the contractor paid, because the work has been done. He did the work with the intent that he was to get paid. But I think we can pay him and then turn around and keep trying to recoup our money from them. If we don't get it, we don't get it, but at least the contractor's paid and that bill is out of our hair.
Okay.
And I think that's been done, or at least that we're heading that direction.
Yeah, we have not paid the contractor, but we do have it on the agenda for you guys to make motion to approve paying the contractor. Yeah.
Madam Mayor, comment that.
Yes.
Are we wanting to write to the committees before we do that?
No, we do not have to. Oh, you mean you mean yes?
Let's wait.
Yeah. Let's wait until I thought you meant I thought you were asking a different question. Let's wait until we get to the committee piece of it to do that, and we'll stay on with our reports to the council, and then we'll address this again in just a few minutes.
And I think that my last bit is just to inform the council. Last week I had filed my paperwork to run for office for Lynn County Attorney this next election term, so I wanted to let you guys know about that. That isn't going to affect, in fact, I think it'll make it easier for me to do my duties here. Sometimes if there's a situation where if someone was arrested by our chief of police or Mr. West, then I would be appointed to represent them as a defendant. Sometimes that would create a conflict. I'd have to get out of the case, but this would streamline things a little more. So I wouldn't be going anywhere, but I just want to let the council know that I'd filed to run for office, and hopefully I'd have your support and wish me luck.
Is that it?
And that's it for me.
Jerome.
Yes, Jerome.
I have a question for Burton, and number one, good luck on the run for office. I'll be supporting you for sure. Number two, I agree with Danny Curtis. Let's keep pursuing the sewer bill. Send him a letter and see if we can't meet him in the middle on something and recoup some cost out of it. The third thing I have is a question. What is our obligation as a city to enforce the enforcement part of the governor's order? So if we have violations going on in our city, what is our obligation for enforcement on that?
That's a good question. I guess I think that the city, I think that our law enforcement officials would have a duty to, or took an oath to uphold the laws and of the state of Kansas. So I think that if that's the law of the land right now, they are duty bound to enforce those. And I think that, I guess I hadn't thought about that specific question that way, but I think that my answer is I think that they have an obligation to enforce the governor's orders. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Maybe they could fall under the Lawful Order Act, where they can just basically give a stern recommendation.
Well, sure. So I guess maybe I misunderstood your question. So if they see a violation, they don't have to, kick down the door and start making arrests or anything. This isn't a mandatory arrest or anything like that situation. I think that they can absolutely give warnings and have people disperse and only really take enforcement action if they if there's some pushback or just continued defiance or something along those lines. My understanding when this was really put in place was that the hope was, or the intention was, that any enforcement done would really be directed at businesses rather than individuals, so that it would put the onus on Casey's, for example, to really monitor how many people they have in the store, because the manager of Casey's would know that if they got caught allowing 20 people in there, that they could be fined and they would have not only be able to bear that cost, but have an incentive to make sure that's not happening, versus trying to crack down on people themselves, having friends over, what have you. I think that was the unspoken hope for how that would be enforced by law enforcement.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Sure.
Is that everything for you?
And that's everything for me.
Any other questions for Burton?
Not at this time. Danny Curtis.
Do we have Chief Tina Finity on the line? One moment, please. I'm hearing a lot of maybe paper shuffling. Hi, is this Tina?
Madam Mayor, this is Tina.
Okay, Chief Finity is on the line for her report.
I just wanted to go over the report that I had submitted. We have started conducting traffic stops more frequently while being mindful of the COVID-19. We've actually found some new ways, interesting ways to conduct some of those traffic stops, where instead of taking driver's licenses, insurance cards, we're actually snapping quick photos of those so we don't have to touch things from those individuals. One thing that I did want to add to the reports, I don't think it's been done in the past, is some calls for services and reports that we've had. As you can see, we've had a civil standby, 4 welfare checks, criminal threat case. The one listed there for the forgery, I have actually been in contact with the county attorney, James Brunn, regarding that case. It's a multi-jurisdictional case that also crosses state lines. Once that is submitted to him, he is actually considering sending that to the U.S. Attorney's Office. We've also had a couple of criminal damage to property cases, one of those being the incident down at the park. We have since increased patrol down there. We have had 2 fraud cases that are also possibly multi-jurisdictional. One of them is still being investigated. We believe that ours may also include some incidents in Paola. We've had 1 domestic case since then. For our codes enforcement, we have sent out a total of 8 letters, 5 of them for grass, 1 for an inoperable vehicle, and 2 for nuisance. For our animal control, We've got, for the 2019-2020 year, there were 286 dogs that were tagged. For the 2020-2021 year, we currently have 69 that are tagged. We're going to start sending out letters towards the end of May as a reminder to tag animals. On the VIN inspections, that's actually been updated. 2 were scheduled. Both of those have been completed. Under the new business, the dog tags are available for the 2020-2021 year. The others for the 19 and 20 have expired. They expired on April the 30th. There were 2 grants that Corporal West had submitted prior to me coming on board. We did just receive word, that's since been updated, that one of those we did not receive. We're still waiting to hear on the second one. Other than that, I don't have any unfinished business at this time. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, this is Danny Curtis. Where are these VIN inspections? Where have they been taking place at?
Both of those actually occurred outside in the front parking area.
Okay. I just wondered, I don't like the idea of traveling all over the county to do VIN inspections. I think the sheriff's department, other people can handle that.
And they do sometimes. Once in a while, there might be a circumstance come up trying to help out a county resident. And we do actually receive the full $20 for those inspections. It doesn't go back to the state.
Any other questions?
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
Any other questions for Chief Kennedy?
Madam Mayor, Tom McCall.
Yes.
Chief Kennedy, I just want to say you've done a great job with the KCTV5 interview. Really well job done there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. I know here in the past, I don't know if you're aware, we talked about the alleyways, getting some trailers and vehicles and stuff cleaned out of the alleyways.
Yes.
Don't know if that's been brought to your attention or not.
Actually, we have discussed that. I know Dan has actually mentioned that as far as him being able to get to utilities and things. We haven't started work on that. I just started getting out some of those other letters last week. Due to the caseload that we had the previous week and the nature of those calls, it's taken a lot of follow-up to get some of those cases finished up. And as long as we don't have quite as many calls for service and reports, we should be able to start addressing some of those issues.
Perfect. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure you did know about it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
We'll need to get Dan on the line. Dan Nasal Road, Public Works Department. If you guys could be looking over page 6, it is Dan's report so that you could be ready with any questions on his report and anything else that you wanted to ask him when he gets on the line. Was he standing by? Was he standing by? What is it? What's that called out?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I know Dan was having audio difficulties with the video, so I don't know if if he was actually tuned into us or not.
Jody's texting him to let him know that that he can call in now. Did someone have a question on his report?
I will add in that we did have some truck drivers that noticed our new signs. So we were glad to hear that to help guide them to where they needed to go. Or rather, where they should not go.
Yeah. If there are no questions for Dan, we'll just move on because he may have trouble. But if if someone did have a question, please let us know now.
Let me look real quick.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to the city clerk report. Jody? And what page is that on?
The city clerk report is in your blue pages. Or no, I'm sorry, mine's in, always love shuffling papers back and forth. I'm on page 16 in the white pages. We did get the audit completed and spoke with the auditor yesterday, and so he's double checking on a couple items with the USDA funding. So as soon as he gets an answer on those, then we should receive our financial statements. But otherwise, everything went smooth.
Where are we on? Did we have a lot of people that were not able to make the payment? Or do we have a lot of people that are behind on the utility bill at this point?
So as of today, we did last week. We issued out reminder notices to everybody, just to be effective in getting their March and April bills paid. So we ran a report today, and if today was a shut-off day, if that was to have occurred, right now we are sitting of a delinquent amount of $7,944. Now, some of the people that are on the list are some of our customers that there is, some tendency or pattern to not pay till the end of the month. So that, in some ways, to us, at least it shows that, our standard customers are paying their bills in. We haven't seen an unusual pattern yet in the bill paying. But what I would like to know is at the next council meeting, the order right now has been extended to May 31st. So effective June 1, there is the capability for us to do shutoffs. So we will like to hear from the council on that May 20th meeting. If you have any, direction or any further insight. If not, otherwise, like I say, we proceed forward with shutoffs effective June 1st unless anything gets extended by the governor.
So that'll be on our agenda to discuss at the next meeting. Do you, on page 16, if you've had a chance to review it, do you have questions for Jody on any of the items?
Jody, I've got a question. Has the city noticed much of the drop in sales tax or anything like that since?
So on the sales tax, what's challenging with that is what we received, like the check that we received for the month of April is actually your sales tax that was collected the period of like February. It's about a month to 2 months behind. So unfortunately, and it was we take it as probably a little closer to March's collections because it was a little higher than normal by about maybe 3,000 or 4,000. And if that was about in the time where this spiked, of people hitting that grocery store in that first round, then it won't be until probably, I would say, June's sales tax to really see what the cycle might be.
Do we have any indication at all, or just have to wait till that comes in?
Honestly, I have to really just wait till it comes in because I can go on to I can go in and look in to see, but it's not going to give me figures really for that particular month. So I will have hopefully a better answer. We'll see what comes in May and then see kind of where that one hits. And that might give us a little idea of what to see.
Has any other city in the League of Municipalities, have they been able to report what their taxes have been like?
At the last conference meeting, that was again where the struggle is because it lags. Unfortunately, it lags a month or two behind that. We're not going to get that data until June.
Are other cities worried about that?
Yeah, there is concern. I think in the larger cities, I hear concern obviously that have more retail business. I think ours, the few business that we have been able to find a way to continue to operate, so that's a good thing. But some of them in the bigger cities are certainly concerned that their sales tax could take a pretty heavy hit.
Any more questions for Jody on her report? If you do notice down on the fourth bullet point, she mentions that, that Connie had got the files in order for the Planning and Zoning Commission while she was home in isolation. And also that she has been researching in preparation for a workshop for condemnation land banks and moderate income housing programs and rural housing incentive programs on dilapidated homes. So that is, again, something that we're going to want to set up fairly soon. Any other questions for Jody?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Tommy Gap.
Yes.
When are we planning on going full staff again at the City Hall?
So this week we are, all of us are in here, and but we still have the door closed. And in discussing things, I would like to be able to keep the door closed until May 18th, until we go into phase 2. That gives us a little time to see how these get through these first couple weeks. But we are all three in here as of Monday.
And along that line, I will tell you that court is scheduled for tomorrow night, but I asked that be at the community center since we had kept our city hall isolated. This way they're going to meet over there and we'll be able to clean up afterwards without any disruption to city business at all. Any more questions for Jody? Okay then, we'll move on to the next item. Reports of council committees. On the water and gas. If you note that, I'm sure that, that you can see that Danny Curtis and Keith Stoker are on the water and gas committee. And on the question of water rights, we had been discussing this, and the conclusion is that the changes do need to be filed for the water rights. You guys, do you remember what this is referring to as far as the legal description, which includes Lynn Valley Lakes and the district, and making those right-of-ways and the water rights?
Madam Mayor, this is Jerome. Yeah, I remember this discussion. Did we find out from District 1, rural water, if Lynn Valley is encompassed in their description?
Yes, I did reach out to the rural water district, and she researched through her files, and the only item that we came across was for a right-of-way easement, and so we proposed that up to the state for them to review, and they said being that it is a, the essence that it's a right-of-way easement gives a impression that it is not included in the district, because if it was, you would not have to have gotten that easement issued. So and then you can see on page 17 what the water commissioner submitted back to us.
Okay, yeah, I think we need to go ahead and file the legal paperwork to distribute water there if the opportunity happens.
Do we need a motion for that?
So we would need a motion to approve to move forward with the applications for updating the water right files to include the city of Lynn Valley Lakes at an expense amount of $800.
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mitzner, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Madam Mayor, Danny Curtis, I second it.
We have a second. I'm gonna do a roll call. Jerome?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Tommy?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Passed. Any other discussions on that item? The next piece is that the gas committee met with the public works superintendent and our city clerk, and they reviewed the gas utilities section of the city codes book. And City Clerk Wade will create another draft with suggestions from that committee at the May 20th meeting. So we have no action on that right now. On the next item is the street. James Thies and Jerome Mitzner are on that committee. And at the last meeting, we said that we would reach out for companies that were interested in helping us with a stormwater survey. And so she did do that. And so far, she has 3 companies that are interested in helping us with a stormwater survey. But that date has not, yes.
So what Jerome Mitzner and James Thies are the committee members for the street, and I emailed out to you today a draft of an RFP, a request for proposal. If you could read through that and see if that looks presentable to you, and if so, what we would want to look at then is where does the council want to identify the pursuit of getting some, proposal estimates of what would be involved in doing creating a stormwater master plan. So if those committee members could review that, then we can work it from there to, like I say, establish when we would want to release that RFP. The dates that I put in the RFP in the draft are just tentative for you to look at as consideration.
So again, that's a committee piece, and this is more informing, but just because the committee's working on it does not mean that all council members can't review that document and make recommendations. And those recommendations probably should go to those committee members, James Thies and Jerome Mitzner, if you have any. Any questions on that? The next piece is the sewer at 503 North 4th Street. This is the item we discussed when Burton was given his report. So if we want a motion on that, now would be a good time.
Madam Mayor, I'm Danny Curtis. I make a motion, we pay the contractor for the work on the sewer for the amount of $1,825.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mitzner, I'll second that.
And we have a second. I'm going to do a roll call. Danny?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on, Tommy's got conversation.
Excuse me. Tommy, go ahead.
I'd like to make an amendment to Danny's. I guess I've talked to everybody about this first. Even on the legal cost of this, I mean, are we willing to, it's $1,825, is it? If we put $500 of legal cost into this, pursuing the repayment from the engineers and stuff like that, is that something we're willing to do, exceed $500, or we want to put a limit on the legal cost with it?
We're in discussion. If council members have comments.
I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, I think we do need to try to put a limit there somewhere, because if we don't, we're going to end up spending a lot of money researching something and not getting nothing else, and have that money going out too. So I gotta agree, I kinda with Tommy on that. Something needs to be, where do you stop throwing good money after bad?
Now I just want to remind you, there are some costs that have been incurred already because we did ask our attorney to review that.
But I like to interject right now real quick too. If before we go any further with this conversation, if the council's going to make up their mind on what they're willing to put in this and whatnot, this would be something that would be appropriate for a legal executive session rather than this be open communication.
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mitzner.
Yes.
Motion on the floor to pay the contractor. Let's handle that motion, and then we can discuss additional costs for legal and executive session.
Okay. There's a motion and a second on the floor. I'm going to do a roll call. Jerome?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Tommy?
Aye.
Motion has passed. The next piece is the park, and we have a report from the park board. And it's on page 7 of the blue pages. If you've had a chance to look it over, you notice Linda is the head of the park board this year, Linda Elder. And and they are the ones that did have some damage out there, and so that's why they increased the patrolling at the park.
Madam Mayor, this is Jerome. The damage, what can we, what kind of damage do they have out there? What can we talk about?
I'm going to have Jody explain that to you.
There was on the bathhouse that's located down near the campgrounds. Those doors are all deadbolt and locked for the winter. So somebody kicked on the door to attempt obviously to get the door open, which obviously did not occur, but it dented the door enough and broke. It's a metal panel on the external and wood on the internal, so it did crack the wood on the internal side of that door, so they had to replace the door.
And I did have a question on it. Said Park Board asked Linda to get a job description from City Hall for the park maintenance position. We still have the same maintenance person out there. They're just wanting a job description, correct? Okay. Any other questions on that Park Board meeting? I had talked to Jody a little bit about the fact that we have our playground equipment still taped off, and our thinking is that it will stay taped off until we move into phase 2, and at that point then we would remove that tape and the signs. Is that what everyone else thinks?
Madam Mayor Jerome Michener, I do know the playground equipment is covered in the governor's order. I have not looked at Lynn County's order to see if it's covered in there or not, and when we can release.
Yeah, it says that it's prohibited. It says all playground equipment use is prohibited, and that's in that phase 1 piece.
Well, no, this is in Lynn County's order.
Oh, and this is in Lynn County's order, excuse me.
Which is in effect until the order is rescinded by the county.
And so it doesn't have a expiration. So right now, it looks like that I was wrong on the 18th. It may expire on the 18th, but we would have to wait on word at that point from our county to see if we would release that playground equipment or not.
Yeah, I think on this whole phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, my personal opinion as a council member, our best option would to be adopt and follow the county's recommendation. That way everyone in the county is playing on the same page, and we don't have things happening in Lake Theme that aren't happening in other communities.
Right. And truly, that's what we've tried to understand and follow. We've had some questions here and there, and our answer has been, we're going with what the county and the state is recommending. And we've really worked hard to make no special recommendations.
I believe that's a good path to maintain.
Hang on just one moment. Did you have a point to make, Jody?
So, just FYI, and if you guys will read through it also in case I'm missing it, because it does not address in that Lynn County one, and again, I don't think it does on the state when it comes to the swimming pools. And the swimming pools have been quite a thing of conversation, I know, on our conference calls. So I do know that I have been informed from the part that there's anticipation that the tentative date right now is June 1st for the pool to open.
But we are having conversations with Lynn County Emergency Management fairly often, and we can clarify anything that we need to during those conversations.
Yeah, there again, sorry, Madam Mayor, this is Jerome. There again, I think we need to coordinate things through the county. I would hate for us to have our pool open in Lynn Valley and Pleasant and have theirs closed.
Correct.
To cause an issue that way.
We're making a note of that right now just to make sure that we have no discrepancy at all. And we're going to have that conversation with Doug.
Sure. And I'll just interject too. Jody's absolutely right that this county order is in effect now and will remain in effect. From my understanding with conversations with county officials, this is something they're going to be fairly fluid on when on updating, doing a new order this time. So I would expect on or around May 18th when phase 2 starts, we'll get a new order from the county. So it's obviously it's meaningful to look at this today, but keep in mind too, this is, while it is concrete, you know, for the time being, I expect this to change kind of in step with the phases that have been outlined by the governor. As far as that goes, May 18th is when swimming pools are supposed to be are opening by order of the governor. Now, of course, again, Lynn County doesn't have to follow that. Lynn County can keep swimming pools closed. But if they stay in step with the state, May 18th would be the earliest possible date for that. And again, really the stipulation goes back to, again, the changing of the definition of mass gatherings. As long as everyone can stay 6 feet away from each other, they should be fine. I think that, obviously, I'm no scientist by here. You know, the humidity in the water it's hard to transfer in swimming pools anyway. But we'll find out what the county does on the 18th, I guess.
Any more questions on that park committee? We'll move on to the cemetery. Danny Curtis and Thomas Cap. Do you have anything to report there?
We had a few trees down in the cemetery, a couple trees I've seen down up there. Looks like they're working on cleaning them up. Other than that, that's all I got to report.
Public safety.
Madam Mayor, Thomas Gabb.
Oh, yes. Yes, Tommy.
Nope. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Public safety. Jerome Mitzner, Keith Stoker.
Madam Mayor, Jerome Metzner, no actions needed this time.
Community building. Danny Curtis, James Thies.
Madam Mayor, I have nothing at this time.
Employee relations and training. Keith Stoker, Jerome Mitzner.
Madam Mayor, I think we had a training scheduled. I was trying to go through my email here, trying to find what Jody sent out. Jody, have we got?
Yes.
I have been in email contact with the company that was going to do a Coracoma training. And so we, at this point, were awaiting to see how the governor's order would go. And then they wanted to pursue back with us to look at some dates that we could go ahead, you know, to move forward with that. So one thing I think would be really important is I'd really like to see this where we can have, especially with Coracoma, have the council, have your planning and zoning, you know, your park board, because I think they all need to really, you know, understand that portion of it.
So we should wait on that until we can all meet in that amount of numbers.
So I'd like to pursue like, you know, the phase 3, June 1st, you know, sometime after that period, I could reach out to him and see what his, you know, whether July would still be suitable. That's when we had originally looked at it. So if that looks like it could still work, then we can, you know, go ahead and get that set, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. And the other thing we want to make sure we keep on our agenda is the customer service education program that we talked about prior to this all happening.
Yes. And we're adding that. We don't want it to slip off. Okay, I'm going to go on to special committee reports. Emergency management, you guys, we've been discussing it and reviewing that, so I'm not sure if we need to go over any particular piece of it at this point. But if anybody wants to, we can. Do we have any discussion on that? The Swan Fest committee has not met, but I expect that they will meet soon. Planning and zoning has not met, but they have had some preliminary discussion on it and how they could meet, and so they would be setting up a meeting soon. also. And the Community Park Board did meet and we reviewed it. We're gonna move on to unfinished business. On unfinished business, we have the administrative policy number 9 on purchasing and bidding that we had did a lot of discussion on recently. And this was the amount of spending, and it's on page 23 to 24. Has everyone had a chance to review that again?
Item Mayor, this is Jerome Littner. Yes, I have. One question that I have for equipment, right under the number 1, all purchases in Excel of 3,000. Is that the correct terminology?
We can change that to whatever you'd like it to say. I don't think it's the necessarily wrong terminology. Just if it Excel, an Excel of, it's obviously not the way, a common way to say it, but I don't think it's incorrect. If you want to say excess, for example, or over, then that's an easy change to make.
Yeah, I think in excess would be more understandable years from now when we go back and review it.
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other items that we would like to discuss on that particular document?
Madam Mayor, Jerome, the only other thing that I saw in here is we're covering Public Works and City Hall and Police Department, but Fire Department is not included in this document anywhere, so I think we need to plug it in just so in the future we don't have any discrepancies if the person in charge of the Fire Department changes.
Right, because it might not be the same supervisor at all times. So we're gonna make that change too.
Regarding that, is it the council's position that it should be $3,000 for the fire department as well?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Littner, I think that'll be fine, yeah. Any purchases that we need to make above $3,000, we should be putting out for bid anyway.
Thank you. With those changes, we would be ready for a motion to approve the resolution on administrative policy number 9.
Madam Mayor, I do have one, Tommy Cap, I do have a quick question here.
Yes.
Saying that shall have prior approval by city council and shall be made via a competitive bid process. So are we saying everything over 6,000 needs to go out for a bid before we can purchase it?
Yes, that's correct.
I mean, if Dan does due diligence and says, hey, I need to buy this diesel generator for one of our water plants, our previous supplier has been so-and-so, and, they bid this time at 6,000, is that what we're after? Or we want, publish it in the paper and do all that stuff before we do it?
I'm going to have Jody address that, but that was a piece that we did not change.
Yeah, that first paragraph is how, it was currently in the administrative policy, is that items over that amount, and some of you may be familiar with that if you in working in other government areas, is that schools and things, you put that, you advertise it, and that means even if it's, you advertise it to your, current vendor, and then you'd have to, put it in the paper and then accept those bids. So I guess unless you all have, want to change that and not go through that process of advertisement, or make something of standard of a certain amount of proposals or quotes have to be submitted. This is the creation of policy for our city, so.
And one of the public policy reasons for doing it this way, and why a lot of cities will do it this way, is to avoid the appearance of favoritism, picking favorites, nepotism. Basically, fact that we want to make sure it's a level playing ground for everybody and no one is picking the winner.
No, I mean, I get that, but I guess what I'm getting at here is the cemetery needs a new lawnmower. We're gonna go to Blue Valley, we're gonna go to Family Center, wherever it be, we're gonna get 3 bids. Do we have to go through the necessities of putting out the paper and dragging it along for another 4 or 5 weeks to do that?
Well, that's the way the policy reads now, and this reads, if you want to change that, this would be the time to do it. But that is exactly the way that it would need to be done. That's right.
That's correct.
I mean, as we've been following suit, we haven't been doing that. I mean, when was the last time we put a bid out in the paper?
We
We
haven't.
we have not for purchase, we have for the sale of surplus, but
So if we are not doing it, we probably should change it, because we should not have something in place that we do not do.
Jerome,
Madam Mayor.
Yes, I'm gonna go to Jerome first, and then we'll go back to Tommy. Jerome?
Yeah, what did you need, Tommy? Or what's your?
what's your thoughts on the bid process?
Well, we opened this document up originally to change the dollar amounts to make it more feasible for our managers to work within a fiscal responsibility. And inadvertently, we found other errors in our document that we haven't been following. I think we need to, I agree with Madam Mayor, if we are not following the policy the way it's written, then we need to omit that policy or that portion of it. And to me, it doesn't make much sense for the written advertisement in the paper for smaller purchases, because we're so limited at this point nowadays to finding vendors for certain products.
So,
Madam Mayor,
yes, Danny.
my suggestion would be, we still go out for bids, but we take the putting in the paper out, because to me, that's, you're spending more money, and if you know what you're looking for, I think we need to be looking for get bids, but if you know what you're looking for, you know where to go. You shouldn't
Right.
have to put it in the paper and hope somebody will come to you.
So, if what I'm understanding on page 23, number 1, what the change that we are discussing is to cross out, to put a period after appropriate authority and cross out and shall be advertised in the local paper. Is that correct?
Let me make one comment, and this is just to make sure we've considered it, not necessarily to take a position or talk you out of it, but again, I think the purpose of this is to avoid any, again, favoritism. So obviously, I don't think we have any concerns here, but I think that it could be envisioned that at some point, someone needs a lawnmower, but the guy who would buy it doesn't like the local, whoever owns the shop here in town in Lacing that sells lawnmowers. And so he goes up to Blue Valley and Johnson County and gets bids from there and doesn't even tell the local guy that he wants the lawnmower because he just doesn't like him. And so then that guy doesn't get an opportunity to bid, and we've allowed someone with an agenda to cut someone else out. Now again, I that's a hypothetical. I don't think we have that situation, but that's why language like that is in there. You can absolutely change it, and I'm not taking the position that you shouldn't take that out, but I just want you to consider everything when you're making your decision.
Is there any way that we could put something in there that says that when getting bids, if locally, make sure you go check locally to get bids as well as first, not necessarily first, but make sure bids are gotten locally as well as wherever? I don't know how you word that.
Yeah, we can put some language in there that says that if there's a local vendor or supplier, then they must be approached for a bid or something to that effect.
We could even say something like, and shall be advertised on the city hall website or notified of such, because, I mean, just because it wasn't there doesn't mean we couldn't, instead of putting it in the paper, when we're getting bids for something, we could make a notice on our website. I mean, it's our process, and whatever we think is due diligence to be fair and inform the public.
And I mean, as a person at least being here the last couple of years, I mean, from what I have seen in the action is that I feel like the department heads have done their due diligence of, they will get 2 or 3 estimates or proposals issued on an item, and then that has been brought forth to the council, to review. So I think, as it states in section A, a detailed specification, making sure we are comparing apples to apples. That's always important when you're reaching out for proposals or quotes from different entities. And then, as you say, if you want to be sure we've checked locally, and then also resourced outside of here, and then that gives you the opportunity for the council to review those, whether you want to make a requirement if we have to have 3, just for comparison. Sometimes that can even be challenging to get 3, but and I think the point of what I'm hearing is just, again, we're back to our discussion on, the time it takes to process items. So, getting into the advertising and getting into the sealed bids, and we're establishing dates for receipt of those bids and for bid openings, and basically that's going to occur at one of the 2 meetings each month. So,
If we're
could
gonna
simplify it,
if we're taking out to be advertised in the local paper, we would also have to take out number B. This is in item number 1, but the B says a request for bid shall be published at least 2 consecutive weeks, the second of which will be no less than 10 days prior to the date of the bid opening.
Well, I don't think this is, from what I'm reading on this, I'm not talking about sealed bids, sealed bids is when you're bidding out a project or something like that. To go out and get bids on stuff you need, say we need a lawnmower, for instance, or say we need a new truck. To go out and get bids and then bring 3 bids to a council meeting, I don't think that needs to be what you call a sealed bid setup. I think that's, it ain't like we're, if we've bidded out a project or something and we don't want, a competitor to, know what they're bidding on, so they can undercut somebody else, that's a different story. But for buying materials and stuff that we need, or any computers, anything like that, we're not gonna go tell the competitor, oh, well, over here, so-and-so said this is what their bid is. We haven't, until it comes to a council meeting, it hasn't gone public yet anyway.
Correct. More comments on that. Tommy, Jerome.
Madam Mayor, this is Jerome. I think the problem we have here is we're trying to mix a purchasing policy and a bid policy together. We're trying to combine the 2 of them into one policy when they truly are handled 2 separate ways completely.
So would you like, I guess the question is, instead of moving forward on this, it looks like we may need to review this once more before, and then get it back out to the council at the May 20th meeting. Does that sound right to you guys?
Madam Mayor, I'm in favor of that. As long as the reason we originally opened up this policy was to change the dollar amount to give our department heads a little bit more leeway with their spending and fiscal responsibility. As long as we can maintain conducting business like we want, and with the way we're currently running, let's go ahead and revamp this policy while we're looking at it.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, Tommy Cap,
Yes,
I
Tommy.
agree with Jerome on this completely. We need to revisit it and, maybe segregate the difference out between a bid and a sealed bid. And revisit it at that point.
so at this point, the only correct, if we were gonna move forward on these, the corrections, I'm gonna have Burton say the corrections that we reviewed before.
Okay, so as I understand it, the specific things we've talked about changing today is the word in Excel to excess, also to add language, including the fire department, as well as City Hall and Police Department. Those are the concrete ones, and then we've had a lot of discussion about whether or not it needs to be advertised, or if it doesn't need to be advertised, if it should be in the paper or Facebook or wherever.
We're not gonna make changes.
But yeah, that's something else. But those are the ones I understand that we've agreed on.
So at this point, those two items, the one word change and then adding the fire department, those are the only two things that are actually gonna be changed if we approve administrative policy number 9. Is that everyone's understanding?
Yeah, at this point, that's my understanding.
Tommy?
And getting the local paper and that stuff out of there, yes.
At this point, we said that we were not,
We're not gonna motion on it tonight.
we're gonna table this particular item until we made those changes, and then we'll review it again.
Madam Mayor, Jerome,
Yes.
if we're revamping this, let's go ahead and look at maybe breaking it out, for our rules for purchasing in one section, and then our rules for accepting bids, in another section. Because, like everybody else is saying, if we need to buy a pump for the sewer, there's only one vendor we can go to for that.
Right.
Or two, if we need to bid out to have 6 trees removed from the cemetery, well, then that's a whole different, that's a bid process and not a purchasing process.
So basically,
It's all possible.
yes.
Try to break those into 2 different sections
So,
inside of this administrative policy.
so you could have administrative policy on bidding, and then in this particular policy, which is talking about amounts, we could say bidding reference this other piece. And so you're talking about a policy that only talks about bidding instead of purchasing and bidding, correct?
Yes, just make them, it could be inside the same policy, just in different sections. But just make it very, clean and separate process.
Jody, Burton, do you have any do you understand what he's asking?
Well, I understand what's being asked, but I guess what I need a little clarity is for the division of there's a separate category when it comes to your capital improvement projects, and that's a whole different basis for when we're doing capital improvement project. Now, as Jerome is mentioning, what has been listed out here is under, prior times, it was not unusual that most governing entities and things had a basis of, advertising for bid for purchases of items. And again, that was under the idea back then for preventing any type of favoritism or those things happening. So if we're, looking at distinguishing this into separate category of here is what the purchasing policy is going to be for the city, and purchasing is inclusive of your, materials and tools that you're going to need for the operations of your area. And if what I'm hearing, there's concern that should not involve any type of advertising or bidding with it. But then where you're in question is for contract servicing, is if you are reaching out to a professional service in order to, you know, take care of a repair or removal or something to that effect, then you are wanting to have that done as a competitive sealed bid type of process. Is that what you're saying? Am I following?
Okay, I want to bring it back just a moment. If we could look at this administrative policy and not look at number 1 right now. Look at number 2. It says purchases for products less than 3,000 or public works items less than 6,000 need not be advertised. Because this is the items that we changed. So if you do not look at number 1 at all, right now we're saying that these items would not need to be advertised if it's less than $6,000. They will follow the procedure outlined below. And so basically the changes we're making are addressing the changes that you're wishing we were making. Does that make sense to you? It looks like we may have already corrected the problem with advertising. Because we never changed number 1. We changed number 2.
Madam Mayor, Tommy Dow.
Yes, Tommy.
I mean, you're correct. Number 2 talked about the purchases less than 3,000, 6,000. Section 1 talks about the purchases greater than 3,000 or 6,000. And I mean, that's still what we're trying to accompany. If we want to go buy a lawnmower or a diesel generator, it's not putting them out for bids, you know, but Maze Road going and getting the 3 local bids. The 3 local bids we can get on lawnmowers what we're wanting to buy and not have to put it on the paper for a 4 to 6 week process.
So you do not, we said that items less than 6,000 would not have to be advertised. But now you're saying that things that are over 6,000 should not be advertised also. Is that correct?
Correct. And the things that are our daily functions. You know, if we want to put a building up, yes, we need to get out for advertisement, and that's going to be in the sealed bid proportion. You know, if we want to go buy a lawnmower, we want to go buy a generator, or something that's going to exceed the $6,000 range, that's in our daily operations, that's what we're trying to eliminate and have to put that in the newspaper.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to suggest. I think we need to table this because I expect that our next meeting will be here at the City Hall and in person, and discussions like this are much simpler in person than over the phone like this. Would that be acceptable to you guys?
Madam Mayor, I mean, it almost sounds, sorry, Tommy again, almost sounds like when you have a workshop on this.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, Jerome Litzner, I'm in agreement to table this until the 20th or whenever we can get together.
Okay.
Let me make a quick comment too, that when I was drafting this, I think I expanded on what the original city's policy was, but I tried to keep this fairly brief. There's a lot of things such as, somebody already brought up the situation where there may be like a unique vendor, for example, who only one person in the country manufactures a specific gear or widget for a specific part. And this policy doesn't address that. And I deliberately left that out, again, trying to keep this concise and in line with what the policy we had was. So maybe it's a good idea for me to just kind of go back and maybe expand this a little bit, and that might address a lot of the things that we're talking about here tonight.
And then we will review it again on the 20th.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I say before you start redrafting anything, maybe we ought to have a meeting and all of us get together. That way you know what we want instead of going and drafting something and bringing it back, and then us having a meeting to discuss it again and changing more stuff.
That makes sense.
Most of us will work into changing something that we still not concerned, we all wouldn't wanna get together and be involved in this. I think
Okay.
you need to wait till we're all together to do this, and then you can redraft it.
Burton's gonna hold off until after our meeting on the 20th, and we will form it up a little better at that point before he redrafts it. Okay, I'm gonna try to find my place again. Where are we? Okay. We're gonna move on to B of unfinished business. That's page 2. And at our last meeting, we agreed to permit R1 to allow a conditions use permit application for food trailers, mobile kitchens for the purpose of food sales. Page 25. Now, to make that go into effect, we need to have an ordinance, and so we'd have to have an ordinance number, and then we would have to have a motion to make that happen. And what ordinance number would that be?
1469.
So although we motioned and approved this last meeting, the recommendation, we did not put an ordinance into effect. So that's what we're trying to do now. Do we have a motion for that? Or any more
Madam Mayor.
discussion? Yes.
This is Danny Curtis. I'll make a motion to put ordinance number 1469 into effect.
Do we have a second?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mitzner, I'll second that.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call. Tom Cap. Thomas Cap. All in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
Jerome Mitzner.
Aye.
Danny Curtis.
Aye.
Motion is passed. Unanimous. Okay, on number C, it's quote from Advantage People's Telecommunications for purchasing the new computers and replacing the server. We had tabled this to the May 20th, 2020 meeting, but if you chose, we could act on it at this meeting. Do you want to leave that tabled, or do you want to act on that?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mitzner.
Yes.
I think we need to go ahead and act on this. The longer we wait, the more delayed we're going to be on replacing a lot of this stuff. All the things that we have tabled, in my opinion, all the technology stuff that we have tabled is all needed items that we are going to have to do. So I would make the suggestion that we go ahead and deal with this at this meeting.
Okay, is the quote from Advantage in this packet, or did we not get it in there?
It is not in
But do you guys recall the information that we had? Can you get that out from last month? And so I can review the numbers with them real quick?
Madam Mayor, I have the quote from Advantage. I've got the last month or last
Yes.
packet. So we got bids from Peoples and from Advantage. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this is for those that don't remember. And Jody, please correct me on any of this if I don't have it correct. This is going to be for two desktop computers and a laptop computer, all running Windows 10. So it's going to be compatible with the newest version of server software that's out there. Advantage gave a bid for the two desktop computers and one laptop computer with a 3-year warranty for $3,510. And please hold while I try to find People's bid. find in people's business packet?
I have it here, handy, and I'm gonna read it to you real quick, okay? What you said earlier, I'm just gonna read the whole thing and it'll be faster. It was purchasing 2 towers and a laptop for the clerks to replace the 2 towers and laptop with Windows 10 and Microsoft 2019 and update the server. And there was reasons for that. Windows 7 was no longer supported. Security updates would no longer be available for Windows 7. Current computers are over 7 years old and they're slower. And the current server was built in 2012. And we had a lot of discussion over that. And the city clerk researched the information, and the advantage price for desktop with Windows 10 was $23.10. Advantage price for the laptop with Windows 10 and Microsoft Office was $1,010. So, and the server was $37.70. People's Telecommunications, the same thing, was the desktop, 2 desktops was $2,700. People's Telecommunications desktop with Windows 10 was $1,289.
It's up on the channel.
It's up on the channel now, on the video. But the recommendation was, I have spoken to Advantage and to People's Telecommunications pertaining to rebuilding the existing towers. Both companies have advised, depending on how you use your systems, how much time you can afford to be down if a tower fails, and the ability to replace units when needed determines whether rebuilding is a route. The cost for the parts and labor to rebuild the tower usually comes to nearly half the cost or 3/4 of the cost of a new unit. So it didn't seem that a rebuilding was very feasible. So the recommendation was to purchase the new computers from Advantage and to have Advantage replace the server for the following reasons. The server and computers are under one company, making things easier for maintenance and agreements and technical support. Number 2, the 3-year warranty periods for parts from Advantage. Number 3, solid supply of replacement parts on hand for instant replacement. So what would be back on the table to be discussed now is to accept the bid and the price from Advantage for the 2 desktop computers, the 1 laptop with the programs, Windows and Microsoft, and the server. So that's what we're talking about now. And the total cost for that is, can we add that up real quick, Jody?
$71.50.
The total cost is $71.50. Discussion is open.
What budget is this money coming out of?
It would be out of the capital outlay under the general gov.
Madam Mayor, this is Jerome. So Jody, under the capital outlay under the general gov, those monies are already there, and that's what we use those type of monies for, is to upgrade hardware or capital improvements. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we budgeted $49,000 in our 2020 budget under capital outlay, and that is what that is for. Improvements such as that.
More discussion.
How did we never did read what the People's Telecom bid was on this?
People's Telecom bid was $2,700 for the 2 desktops, and one desk. I think it should be saying laptop instead of desktop here, but the one laptop was $1,289, and the server is an Advantage server. So at that point, we would revert back to the information for the price from Advantage for the server, which was $37.70.
So, can we separate out the server and figure out what the computers are gonna be from either place?
Yes, we
That
can.
total?
At that point, there is a definite Advantage is the cheapest. $23.70 plus 10 is $3,380 from Advantage. Let me write that down. $33.80 from People's Telecom. That, not counting the server, the total is $3,989. So there is a $600 better price from Advantage.
Madam Mayor, Tommy Cap.
Yes,
And if I heard right, Advantage has a 3-year warranty and People's had a 1-year warranty.
correct.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
That we purchase 2 desktops, 1 laptop, and a server from Advantage with the total of, I ain't done the math, but
$71.50.
total of $71.50. And I'd like to thank Peoples for their bid. I'd like to do business with them in the future.
Okay. Do we have a second on the motion?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mixner, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, Danny,
Aye.
Tommy,
Aye.
Jerome.
Aye.
Motion is passed to purchase the computers from Advantage and the server. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item of business. And it's number 9 on page 3, unfinished business continued, City of Lacey website upgrade development. This was tabled until May 20th, but we can act on it now. Let me look at the time real quick. What time is it? Can you read that?
Almost 9 o'clock, which is 10 till 9.
7, 8, 9. So we're okay. We're still good on our time, so we have an opportunity. We can leave this tabled until May 20th, or we can act on our website upgrade development. It's up to you. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mixner, pretty much the same as the last topic. This is gonna be something that, will have to be done, regardless of the timeline. I think we go ahead and move upon it and, give everybody the ample opportunity to gear up for it.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read the item. City of Lacey website upgrade development. The platform we currently run on will be coming to its end of life at the end of 2021. We'd like to upgrade now in order to improve our website's ability. Our intern, Katie Russell, has received training on the administrative role on the website. There is a one-time upgrade fee of $945. And so we would, at this point, we would entertain a motion to approve or have more discussion on that item.
Madam Mayor, I've got a question for Jody. Once again, with this just being software, would it still fall under our capital outlay improvements under the general fund?
It would still, Yes, it can still fall under on our capital improvement for updating the computers.
With that being said, I'll make the motion that we continue with the upgrade of the website for the one-time upgrade fee of $945.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Madam Mayor, Tommy Cap. Who is doing the upgrade on this? Who's the fee being paid to?
So One Each Technologies is who we do an annual contract with them for our website domain, and so that's who that is who we would be getting the platform from, the updated platform.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor. Jerome.
One question for Jody on this also. Is Allison James is still involved and will be helping us through this, correct?
Yes, Allison James is our representative for One Each Technologies. She's our area rep.
Okay. My vote will be aye.
Danny.
Aye.
Tommy.
Aye.
Passed unanimously to upgrade with $945 our website's platform. Thank you. We're going to move on to new business. On page 26 to 32, we have a letter of engagement for temporary financing for the upcoming sewer improvement project. This is for information, correct?
That is correct. So when the sewer committee, I want to at least give you the opportunity to see a letter of engagement. The temporary financing is obviously in pursuit of the sewer project. We usually outsource for some temporary financing to help cover some of the upfront, costs in preparation for the design and things for those projects. And then once the project is completed, then those notes are, paid off from your loan that you have with USDA. So we will need to also evaluate the temporary financing approach that we would like to consider.
And that's something that the committee, everybody can look at that letter again, and the committee will be reviewing these things in depth.
Yeah, and there's obviously companies out there, you all have worked with different ones in the past on some of your projects. George K. Baum, Stifel, which is now Stifel, KDHE, or you've done SRF, like the state revolving loans. You've also done with Ransom. I mean, those are all just various ones, if that rings a bell for any of you on the prior projects that you've been a part of.
Any questions or comments on A of new business? B is just the annual 2019 Consumer Confidence Report from the newsletter May 15th. It's on page 33 and 34, and you can have that to review. Is there any discussions on that?
And as I've stated there, it will be issued out in newsletter form on May 15th is our goal to get that issued out, and then it will also be identified on the water utility bills on June 1st that it is available here at City Hall if anybody's wanting copies.
If there's no discussion on that, we'll move to C. And the proposal is to have a budget workshop on May 20th, 2020. And the suggestion is that we could have it at 5:30 p.m. at the Lansing City Hall. That's the same night as our next city council meeting. And we're assuming that, we may have our in-person city council meetings at our next meeting. Let's have discussion on that.
And this is just a suggestion of a date. Was hoping to have the financial statements. It may be something we might look at in the first week of June, if May 20th seems a little pressed for us in getting the information from our auditor in order to help guide us, on where our dollars are in preparation for the 2021. So, but I would like to have a workshop like we did last year. I think that was helpful for everybody to begin understanding better the budget and how it works and the allocation of the funds for 2021.
And discussion is open.
Madam Mayor, Jerome. First off, yeah, last year, Jody, that was awesome. It helped us understand where our money comes from a lot better. And I think getting everybody on the same page worked great. I am not opposed to meeting in person with the other council members, provided that we stay within the recommendations from both the state and our county health. The only caveat to that is with my work, I may be masked up while we'll meet, but that's not because of you, it's because of me and my possible exposures that I have at my work. So I am all in favor of it if phase 2 kicks off when the state is going to.
So let's deal with these one at a time. So, as far as our next meeting being in person on May 20th, is everybody in agreement on that?
Madam Mayor,
Madam Mayor,
Tomcat.
Jerome Bittner, yes.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, Danny Curtis, yes.
So we heard yes from Jerome, Tommy, and Danny. So we will go ahead and assuming that nothing has changed and that we're in compliance with the county and the state at that point, we're going to plan on an in-person meeting here at City Hall on the 20th of May. So do we want to consider having that budget workshop that day, or do we want to put it off until the first meeting in June or another day? Some of the discussion can be whether we want to have it the same day as a council meeting because it makes a long day, or would you rather have a separate meeting for a budget workshop? And again, these are just suggestions on dates. So the discussion would be, if we're having a budget workshop, when we want to have it, and if we want to have it in conjunction with a city council meeting or on a separate day. Discussion is...
Danny Curtis, I would recommend we do a budget workshop probably on a second day because it always gets long-winded. If we have it before a council meeting, there's a chance we may not get everything we need resolved or understood done. So I would recommend we do that on a separate day.
Okay. Is that the consensus? Tommy?
I'm good with either or. It'll be my first budget meeting. I've been to see what Jerome and Danny Curtis had to say on this one.
Jerome?
I totally agree with Danny Curtis. It makes for a very long day. So I'd be open to another, to meet on another day. I'm available on the 27th, which is the following Wednesday after our council meeting.
We're considering the date, Wednesday, the 27th. Do you have your calendars, to where you could tell us today whether that would be a possibility? Or do you want to wait until the 20th to set that?
My recommendation is we wait until the 20th to set that. That way maybe we'll have our other two council members present and we can get their feelings on it as well.
Okay. We can do that. Thank you. The next item is the Coracoma workshop for the mayor, the governing body, full-time city employees, planning and zoning, The Lacey Community Park Board. We had originally scheduled this for April the 29th, but we need to reschedule that. So would we consider rescheduling in June or July? And we did discuss it earlier, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think we should do this, and hopefully by then the restrictions will be loosened up, or we can get that many people together in one setting. So let's go ahead and set it for a goal and shoot for it.
Okay, so we're gonna tell Jody that she could go ahead and get that set up and find the right time, and probably by the 20th, she might have a date for us. Also, on our, she's gonna add an E item on our new business is our customer service training for all of our employees. And so I don't think we need to move on that, but I just will say that we made a note to get that added on that business so that we can get that scheduled also. Do we have any need for executive sessions?
Based on our prior conversation, I asked for a 5-minute executive session for legal.
Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, Danny Thursby. I make a motion to go into executive session for 5 minutes for legal.
Second?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Michener, I'll second that.
All in favor? Jerome?
Aye.
Tommy?
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're moving into executive session and muting the meeting that we're streaming publicly now. Executive session is complete. Our regular meeting is called to order. No action was taken. Do we have any more needs for executive session? Okay, we're gonna move forward then to other business. Jerome?
Madam Mayor, yes, I would like to make the motion that we direct our attorney to pursue the $1,825 through a demand letter, and that we're going to pursue this bill.
Do we have a second?
Madam Mayor, Tom McCaff, I second that.
All in favor? Danny?
Aye.
Jerome?
Aye.
Tommy?
Aye.
Motion is passed. Do we have other business? And I don't see anything more on notes and communications to the council. Do we have anything else that we have not discussed that you would like to discuss? I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Madam Mayor, aye, Danny Pep, motion we adjourn.
A second?
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mixner, I'll second that.
All in favor? Danny?
Aye.
Jerome?
Aye.
Oh, can I stop this for a second? I need to stop this just for a moment. On notes and communication to council, I do have something. If you'll hang on just a minute, I'll get it up. Just a moment. Okay, I have a email from Keith Stoker, and I'm going to read it to you. It says, Deb, I've accepted a new position in Moline, Kansas. I'm supposed to start on Monday. I know this is short notice, but I'm going to resign my position on the city council effective Monday, May 4th. I've really enjoyed working with you and truly believe that the city is going in a positive direction. Keep up the good work. If you have any questions or want an outside opinion on anything, feel free to contact me. We're keeping our house, and Denise will be staying here most of the time, so we'll be around. Thank you, Keith Stoker. And along with that, we need to have a motion to accept Keith's resignation, effective Monday, May 4th.
Madam Mayor, point of order. I think we need to have, because it started the voting process, I think Danny will have to rescind his motion for
Yes, you're correct.
adjournment first.
Madam Mayor.
Danny has a motion to rescind the adjournment. Do we have a second?
Jerome Mixner,
Madam Mayor.
All in favor? Danny?
Aye.
Tommy?
Aye.
Jerome?
aye.
Okay, so meeting is back to order, and the notes and communication, as I read it, we have a communication from Keith Stoker to resign effective May 4th. And we would entertain a motion to accept Keith's resigning.
Madam Mayor, Jerome Mixner, I'll make the motion that we accept Keith's resignation and thank him for all these years of service with the city, both on the Planning and Zoning Commission and on the City Council and all the other many places that he's served.
Do we have a
Madam
second?
Mayor, Tom McCaff.
Yes.
I will second what Jerome has said, and would like to thank Keith also.
All in favor? Danny?
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
Tommy.
Aye.
Okay, motion is passed. I'd like to suggest that, I don't know what formally has been practiced in years past, but I would like to, at least discuss what kind of thank you or recognition letter that we send to Keith. Any discussion on that?
Madam Mayor Jerome, I don't know that we've officially done anything in the past on these type of situations. I know when we've had retired employees, we have, but I don't know of anything firsthand that we've done in the past for anyone that has served on as many different committees as Keith has.
Other than, I would ever for council members who quit or resigned or retired, or left for what reason, we just give them name tag, their name still on their plate still, but other than that, I really don't know what to.
So I'll tell you what,
We should send them something card or something, a card, thanks, or something.
right. I'll work with Jody, and we will of course give him his name tag, and we'll write a letter for him also, and thanking him and trying to acknowledge some of the many things that he's done. Will that be acceptable?
Madam
Yes.
Chair, this is Jerome. Yeah, I think that'll be great.
Okay. And we will move forward with, I'm gonna ask Jody to post, information on this on the website. And so we can ask for letters of interest, and then I'll move forward with interviews and seeing if we can't get some good candidates for the, to consider to fill his position. So, sorry for that hiccup, but we could move to adjournment at this point.
Madam Mayor,
We have a motion to adjourn from Danny. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Jerome,
Aye.
Danny,
aye.
Tommy.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I just didn't want to miss it.